We're live.
We are live. Hope so. Hello, everyone. So it says we're live. Hopefully, we're live, and I'm just gonna give it a few seconds before we start it off. Awesome.
I'm gonna go on YouTube on my phone to see if we're live, so I can look at myself.
Yes.
Make myself uncomfortable.
I think we can start. So Danny.
Do I have to start? Oh God, I'm already ruining it. Hi, welcome to nAGLY Live.
What is nAGLY? It is a youth-run group in Salem, Massachusetts for LGBTQ plus youth. Please check us out at nagly.org. So many people have expressed how much they love our group, so we decided to go virtual. Think of us as a digital GSA, but we have a home base.
So nAGLY Live is every other Thursday, and it starts from 7 to whenever we finish getting off on a tangent. And if you feel like at that time you still don't get enough of us, you can always catch us on our other social media outlets. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with the username of North Shore nAGLY, and that's all one word. So somebody just had to name their child nAGLY, so we have to use North Shore nAGLY, and I'll add the links to the chat. Also, please take the time to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We are currently trying to get 100 subscribers so we can get a custom link, which will most likely be North Shore nAGLY.
Me? Okay. We're going to start off with some quick guidelines. Before I go into the quick guidelines, I just want to point this out. I'm like incepting all of us. This is great. Now you're all under my control. Glad that's over. So, okay. So our guidelines for this live program that we do is that our target audience are youth, ages between the ages of 10 and 18. All content will be anonymous. We will not be using any real names. Zero tolerance in the chat. You will be banned for being mean. So if it's not nice to say, then you probably shouldn't say it. Everything is going to be PG-13, although there might be the occasional cursing. But those curses will not be at anyone, and they will not be to each other. And also, no copyright content will be shared.
We'll also be covering some topics that some viewers may find sensitive or uncomfortable. The views of individuals featured in our live sessions aren't necessarily a full representation of nAGLY's thoughts and opinions. With that being said, viewer discretion is advised. Do not sue us. None of us are trained social workers. We somehow made it to adulthood. So we're speaking from experience.
Awesome. Great job. So we're going to get into some introductions. So my name is Mia. I'm 31 years young, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am one of the adult advisors at nAGLY.
I am Danny. I am 29 years old, although sometimes technically and legally timeless. My pronouns are he, him, his, and my role at nAGLY is an adult advisor, but also the coordinator of our health education and risk reduction team.
I am Richard. I am 24 years old. I use like male pronouns, and yeah, I used to be a former peer leader at nAGLY, and now I run the anime club.
Okay, so now we're going to get into our qualifications and how we identify in the LGBTQ plus community. So I represent the L for lesbian in the LGBTQ community.
And I represent the G for gay and the Q for queer in the LGBTQ community.
I represent the A because I am homoromantic asexual, which means that I have emotional ties to other men, but sex does not play an important role in my relationships.
Awesome. So now that you got to know a little bit more about us, you're going to get to learn a little bit more about us. And so the way nAGLY Live is run, the more interaction that we get in the chat, the better these topics get. So feel free as we're, talking towards each other to get into the chat and interact with us as much as possible. So I figured a topic that I wanted to talk about tonight is pet peeves. Especially, do you have pet peeves? I'm sure people probably do. And so what pet peeves are is like things that bother you, Yeah, so let's start off with Danny. Danny, do you have any pet peeves?
I'm so excited you asked me because I have two, and I already wrote them down because I was very prepared for this. Although whenever we talk about pet peeves, I always think back to like this, like not obscure, but just like this random comic that I saw a while ago with like just like some dude walking around with like some tentacled creature, and he's just like he was like eating chips with his mouth open, and he's just like, yeah, that's my pet peeve. Just I don't know, whatever. Classic comedy. That's I don't know if that was copyrighted. Did I lose my job? Okay, hold on. I'll write a note for myself to look that up later. So I do have two pet peeves, and I actually do at nAGLY let people know about this pet peeve. And I've caught people doing this, and it's thrown me into a like blind rage. It's when people use dry erase markers on paper. I don't know if Richard, you can back me up on this.
I remember when we had signs up saying "Do not use the dry erase markers on the paper."
This is just something so it goes to my core. It just I don't know. But yeah, no, when you just don't use dry erase markers on paper because the ink like just bleeds out and it like ruins the marker so quickly and like it uses up all the ink, and I just need you to like just please trust me on this. Just please like don't do that. But my other pet peeve is, and this is like a throwback to when I was in high school. There was a teacher that I didn't have her for, she wasn't my teacher, but like I always ended up like having like detention or whatever. So I was stuck with her. And whenever somebody said like, this is like, I don't want to do this, or I can't do this, like it's too hard, she would just like whip around and be like, no, like this is hard, like bang on the table, like what you are refusing to do is difficult. And so like now I'm just super intense. So now I that kind of carried over in my everyday life into like my like pseudo adulthood. And I catch people doing that and I'm just like, no, you're wrong, like this is difficult, it's not hard. So yeah, those are my pet peeves.
That's very interesting. Okay, can we go for a moment? Can we just go back to the first one? Because I'm so confused. So someone will use paper and marker, and then they'll use the dry eraser to erase?
No, they'll use a dry erase marker to like draw on paper or on like a material that's not supposed to like you're not supposed to use the marker on. But the thing is that like I understand why, because like it like draws beautifully, like the lines are so like the colors are bold, the lines are like super crisp, but it's like you can only use the marker for like a few times on paper because like the ink just like shoots out of it. It uses up the ink so quickly. So you're supposed to like, that's why it looks so good, is because it uses up so much ink. But like, yeah, at least that's my understanding of it. I don't know. I could just be like making all of this up. I might not even be Danny. I don't know.
I'm convinced. I mean,
so yeah, don't use dry erase markers in that way. That's bad.
Especially not around you.
No, you don't want to see me in my true form.
All right. So Richard, what are your pet peeves? What just really bothers you?
Oh no. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people like to make a competition out of everything. Like when someone says like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it! Like this, like I lost like $20 out of my wallet. Like I'm never gonna get that back again." And then someone goes, "Well, at least it wasn't unlike this time where I actually went outside and then someone came up to me and they took my wallet and they walked down the street and they ended up buying like a ton of things and they bought like a ton of stuff with my credit card and they came back and just burned it right in front of me. Like that's not as bad as that happening to me." And it's just like, but how is that relevant? Like, it doesn't make it worse.
Like, I guess you're right. Yeah. That is pretty bad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, but like, how does that help that person? Like,
yeah, that's a really bad competition to be in. Like, well, you have a really sad life.
Like, that's just like a softer way of putting it. Like,
it's so funny.
You know what, though? I think I would. Okay, this is kind of messed up. I might start doing that on purpose. Just to like kind of like, but bring it to like the level where it's absolutely ridiculous. Like I see someone walking around with like a cast because like they broke their ankle, and I just go up to them and be like, I don't know, like whatever. Well, you know, sometimes my bones fall out, and then I just walk away.
Well, at least you don't have sponges for kneecaps.
Yeah. Like you should be happy. You should be happy. One time I thought an alligator was my cast, so I left it on for a whole week.
I think that one went. It's like you have to be on something. Yeah.
Yeah, be on an alligator, literally standing on an alligator for that to happen.
That's awesome. So then I have to ask, if someone close to you, they have, you know, let's say they have those pet peeves that you just don't like. How do you handle that? How do you react to that? Are you like more a loving nurture way, or you just like straight up tell people like, listen, don't compete with me when I'm trying to tell you my sad story?
Oh, I'm just very direct.
Yeah.
I'm extremely direct. Like, literally, when someone, as soon as they get into like their own little story about like how they have it much worse, I'm just like, really? How is this relevant?
Awesome. How about you, Danny?
No, I do that same thing. I feel like it's my duty to be super direct about that. Just because that's, I don't know. That's just like the way I was brought up, I guess, is to just call people out. Because I feel like if it's like something that like annoys you, then just like telling other people that that's something that annoys you is probably a good idea. Because if you don't like try to engage with them and like let them know, then like they might just keep doing it, and then like you're gonna keep feeling like that pressure and be like, wow, I like really hate this, and then maybe like that behavior that person does is gonna like overtake like their personality and like other qualities about them. So then all you're gonna see or all you're gonna know about them is just that they like to do that one thing that you really hate, that you never told them that you don't like it when they do that. So just take care of it early on. Don't let it fester.
I feel really encouraged because I do have a pet peeve, but I feel like I don't have much of a pet peeve that like really, like I don't really get that angry that quickly. But one of the things that is my pet peeve is when someone tells me like, oh, did you see this or this episode or this show? And then I'd be like, no, I haven't. Then they tell me what happened and then spoil it for me. And then I'm like, okay.
Great, now I don't have to see it. Thank you.
Exactly. And I never say anything. I'm just like, oh, okay. And then just keep going. And I'm like, well,
Oh, no.
well, I guess that's okay.
I just lost sound.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Okay.
Can you
Okay.
hear
I hear you now. Okay.
Nice.
Mia, I'm so sorry that you've had to go through that.
And it's someone that's very endearing to me. So, yeah. And you know what? I also feel like it is kind of karma, because when I know what someone's pet peeve is, I do try to see how close am I to that person. So, for example, someone today,
like physically close to them.
Someone today told me that a friend of mine doesn't like a certain word, and if it starts with the letter M and ends with the letter T, so I'm gonna say it, and if you think you know what this word is, please feel free to cover.
I love that word.
Oh yeah.
So the person that I am, I sent them a Facebook message with a recording of the word. I'll use my phone for dramatic reenactment. Moist. And I sent it. That's all I did.
Oh no.
And they actually, and they sent me back like they were like, oh no, why'd you do that to me? And they were like all laughing, and I'm like, okay. So this didn't end our friendship. So
no, if I find someone like that, I find ways to slip it in so it doesn't sound like I'm doing it on purpose.
Well, I mean, like, how else am I supposed to describe these mashed potatoes? Like,
or how else am I going to describe this like sloppy bread that's been sitting in the water?
Ooh, that I dunked in my Dr. Pepper by accident? Yeah.
You dunked bread in your Dr. Pepper?
Only a few times. Oh, I had like another joke to tell, but whatever. Okay, sorry everyone. I'm not funny anymore. I forgot. No, I had something I want to say that was like really good.
Well, with your background and everything, it looks like you have a lot of jokes behind you. Like, were you studying for tonight? That's what it looks like.
No, I'm at work still. So this is like my office, and like this is like what my office looks like.
See,
it's actually
all I can see is the gigantic gay like right next to you.
I know, right? Yeah, no, these are just like rules, discussions. I'm not really sure from like before I started like working here, and I'm just I should like clean the board, but then also I feel like all of my kids will just like come in and be furious at me if I like change this place too much, because they also get like, sometimes they get like a little upset when like I move the furniture around, and then like after half an hour they're just like, oh wait, no, I actually kind of like this. So I don't know. Oh, when they found out that I wasn't getting them pizza anymore on a regular basis, they were kind of like not super okay with me, and I'm just like, ugh, like, like if they don't come, then I don't have a job. Like, so
gotta get more pizzas.
yeah, better start getting pizza again.
Yeah, I love how it says gay, and then on the other side of you it says agenda. So it's like this is like a massive
is it here?
Behind you.
Is the agenda here? No, actually, one of my favorites though is that. Hold on, I'm actually gonna. Oh wait, I have too much shit. Like,
we got some Illuminati stuff going on there.
Confirmed. Oh, where is it? Oh, shoot. Oh, it says something like "no juuling," cuz I just think that's funny. Who wrote that? And I'm like, thank you for not juuling inside my youth group. I appreciate that.
Awesome. So I'm done with my pet peeves tangent. So Richard,
awesome.
What topic do you want to discuss tonight?
So the topic that I decided to go over was like how to get involved with like your local communities, even as like a youth, because I know that there tends to be like less out there opportunities for kids. So as a youth, what kind of opportunities can you make for yourself to get more involved?
Awesome. So one way that I feel like you can get involved is by at least going to your local town halls, and if they're on social media, they have social media accounts, it would be great to follow their local politicians and their representatives, and even the people that they feel like they don't have, like they're on the opposing side. So one of the great things about nAGLY is that one time we had Seth Moulton. He's one of our representatives, and so he came and he got to speak to the youth and staff. And one of the things that he said was that if the youth are speaking vocally to him, he's very pro LGBT community, but the people that they should be trying to focus and get in front of are the people that aren't, that they feel like doesn't represent them, for whatever the case may be, and go to those town halls and be a presence and let them know, hey, these are the struggles that I have. This is how you can help, and just be really honest about it.
Yeah, those people get paid to hear you, so you might as well make them work for it. That's a weird way to put it, but okay. Also, I do want to say, I remembered that joke that I wanted to tell. We were talking about the pet peeves. No, and I was thinking, like, what's another way that could be a better way to say moist? And I thought of, or how else do I describe these mashed potatoes? I could say that these mashed potatoes are tolerably wet.
So that's what we're gonna recommend.
That's even worse, right? Good.
Actually, that
is. Good. Yeah, point proven.
I can't.
Yes, you can. You can. I believe in you. You can do it.
I cannot tolerate this.
How wet this is? Yeah.
We're gonna go to. That's what we should do. We should go to all these town halls and say
that our mashed potatoes are tolerably wet.
Hey, you know what? At least
do you see this?
Some people's attention, right?
And then when they try to kick us out, what are we going to just be like? We pay you to listen to us. Mashed potatoes are tolerably wet.
I think Jess can't handle any more conversations.
This is what you get for putting me on this program. Like this past Tuesday was a mess at nAGLY. I mean, it was great. We had so much fun and learned so much. But like, man, like I'm like the adult that's like even in charge or like associated with like the talking part of anything, and man, it just goes right out the window. Everything. But do we want to go back? Do we want to get serious and go back to Richard's topic now? God. No, because I was sorry if that offended you. So
no.
I was thinking that like I like to think that if youth want to get involved in their neighborhood, there's kind of like it's kind of healthy to find some peers, or healthy is might be a weird way of putting it, but it's like really, it's a really good start and a really good foundation to find some peers that like are concerned about the same things as you are. Peers could be people of like the same age, people in like your super close neighborhood that like you go to school with. They could also be like family members or like just, I don't know, just people of your community, and trying to like organize something with them, or at like the very least, just like all getting together and being super angry at the same time. Cause like that anger can be a kind of like motivator and really get you to like be like, oh, this is like we're so mad about this thing that we are going to go to like this town hall. Like we are going to like go to like the state house. We're going to write these letters. We're going to make these phone calls and stuff. So I think like that kind of emotional motivation and like that, like sharing like that space together is like a really, really awesome way to really great. Like that's what we refer to as kind of like grassroots type like organizations and like getting things started. But also I think it's kind of important to find spaces that are already established. So like, you know, we have nAGLY, there are other like nonprofits that like give people, and like, especially like young people, outlets to work out their frustrations, to get involved in like a very large, great way in their communities, or to like be involved in like politics. I think it's important to find those spaces and find those organizations first before you like, I think a lot of people want to jump in and start like, kind of creating their own space, but that kind of detracts or like distracts others from the work that's already been done. And I don't know. So I think that you should definitely do some research and find other organizations that are kind of in line with like what you're mad about, what you want, what changes you want to see.
Yeah, to build a layer on top of that. Another thing is you can also look into like organizations that such as like local like libraries or schools or anything like that, because they're always looking for something like fresh and new in order to try to keep like people interested in what they have going on at their establishments. So being able to just write to them, or being able to just shoot them an email talking about like what you're interested in doing in order to be able to like freshen up your community and how you want to host something like that there would also help get some more people involved. On top of that, I'm gonna go all full like Wendy Williams on this and just bring up some hot topics.
You're gonna like pass out while wearing a Statue of Liberty costume. Cool.
I'm not in New York, unfortunately. But we're gonna talk about some hot topics.
I love it.
So, for starting up like new programs in like local places, one of the major things that I've been like hitting as like a giant like wave has been people have been starting like drag story time like hours, where drag queens come to like their local libraries and they read books to children. And most of the time, like they just get to pick a book in the library, or they've been picking some that are along the guidelines of like showing acceptance towards people like different natures and just people who are different in general. That tends to be a common selection. But there's been lots of pushback from like local communities. Fortunately, in Massachusetts, we have a lot of acceptance towards these types of newer programs. Unfortunately, there are some like political groups who tend to protest and push back against these types of programming, no matter how successful or accepted they are by the local communities. Which my question is, how do you fight back against these types of pushback that you get, or how do you respond to this type of pushback when it comes to starting up something new like this?
It's difficult. It's challenging. It's difficult. It's not hard. It's difficult. See, I know Miss Bertram taught me so well, even though she was never my teacher. Yeah, I don't know. I think one of the things is like, you know, be unwavering in your dedication and like what your intent was to begin with. So like kind of don't, part of me wants to say like, you know, don't let them shut you down. Like keep doing it and just like push through and, you know, maintain that visibility. But at the same time, you know, depending on like what the circumstances are, it's like, don't put yourself in danger. As obviously, as we always say at nAGLY, is like, you know, be proud, be visible, like do what you can to like represent yourself in your community, but like don't do it if like you're gonna put yourself in like physical or emotional or mental like harm, because that's definitely not helpful, because if you're not able to continue doing the work, then like, was the work really necessary? Was it really like that important? So I don't know. I think that, well, I think like in this instance that you're talking about, like the queens can definitely keep, I would encourage them to keep reading, because like there is so much support, and like there is like such a huge community of not just like people in the LGBTQ community, but also just like parents and like kids that like appreciate this, that appreciate these storytellers and like this time that like they're donating or that they're working to like do this. And I think their support like far outweighs or is in like a much greater number than the people who would like to see this type of thing shut down. So, yeah.
Yeah, amen. I totally agree with you, Danny. So what I would say too is, you know, focus on the parents and the people in the community that do want it to continue, and to also know that, you know, libraries is a public space. So, you know, as long as the library allows them to continue to keep going, then they should definitely continue to be visible, like Danny said, and just keep letting them know, like, encourage those parents that don't want anything to do with it to come and see what it is, what it's all about, right? Because it's about lifting the fog, right, of what is being a drag queen. You know, some people, they don't even know what it is. They just have a huge stigma, judgment against the drag queen community, and they don't realize, you know, drag queens, they're people too, you know, like, sure, you know, some of them, you know, they have to play characters. For some of them, that's just who they are, right? But they're people too, and you know, they deserve the love and respect that they're giving back.
Yeah, there's like a real person underneath all those wigs.
Underneath all the wigs, the rhinestones, all
that foundation. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Somewhere deep down, if you dig real deep with a lot of Dawn dish soap, you'll find a person.
A real, genuine person.
Exactly. And I mean, they're the ones that are putting themselves out there. So of course they're being vulnerable, especially, you know, when they're not being on that stage. You know, they're putting themselves in the public eye. They are being vulnerable. So, you know, there's, you know, there is something that comes with that being done, right? You know, you're putting yourself out of your comfort zone. So just keep showing up, keep speaking, keep holding on to the positivity. Any negativity that comes your way, just let them know that this is all about positivity. And you know, what's so bad about being a drag queen? You know, it's like, you get to entertain people. Like, come on. Like, who doesn't love drag queens?
You can't breathe.
And I know that.
Oh, I do have to say though, like, I understand it when people get intimidated at drag shows, because I mean, like, they're not for everyone. Like, personally, like, drag shows are like my element. Like, I feel like most, not like accepted by any means, but just like at home finally. When I'm at a show, but like, man, like, it is so intense. It's like borderline like catastrophic. So I can definitely understand how like the drag like environment or community might not be for everyone, but I mean, yeah, definitely there's still people, and like they still deserve like that recognition as like, even as like performers or artists, like at like the very least. But even then, I don't think you should do anything less than like humanity. So that was a weird tangent. I'm sorry, everyone.
No, of course. And Richard, you know, you're the one that knows more than us how much
I'm going to be working
work
you guys are going to be here by yourself.
I'll log it up. I'm sorry, I'm on a conference call right now. So
I'm sorry, just want to let you know I'm going and you're here.
Okay, thank you.
It's totally off script. I love this. So really quickly, Richard, Jess has a question in the chat if you want to answer her. I think she's a little confused about how these drag story hours are happening in the community.
So the way that these drag queen story hours are happening in the community is that basically these drag queens and people who are interested in this are reaching out towards these libraries. They're getting a hold of the people who run them, and they're basically putting in a like written letter or like letter of intention as to like, look, this is what I want to do here for a program. This is what my goals are with it, and these are the intended audience. And then there's some examples that usually get sent in as well. It's basically about selling it to them as to, look, this is something that's beneficial for our community. This is not about something that I'm trying to do for myself. This is something that I'm trying to do for everyone. And it'll help bring some good light towards your establishment as well. And one of the positive things about this is that, like, right now we're in a pretty, like, decent day and age when it comes to drag. Drag's kind of in its height right now, and we're also in a, like, pretty heightened area where parents are pretty accepting of gender fluidity and are open towards, like, gender interpretation. So right now, these types of projects are actually, like, selling out, like, across the United States. No matter how much pushback that they're having, there's a whole lot more support coming from, like, mothers and from kids and from people all over. Some states that have tried to do these, there's actually been lashback from some local areas where the government's actually stepped in and said, nope, this is actually good, from the local states. And then there's other states where it's the opposite way around, where there's actually politicians saying, no, this is bad for the kids and bad for all the people. And like, the people who live in the state are actually fighting the politicians, being like, no, look, like, we love our kids. Like,
wow, that's so interesting.
So it's like, even if you're a youth and you don't believe that you are old enough to be able to handle something like this, or are old enough to be able to be taken seriously, if you handle yourself well and you are passionate about what you are doing, just get a hold of someone, explain your passion to them about how it will be beneficial to you, your community, and to them as well, and just sell it.
Yeah. Just work it. I love it.
Work.
So Richard, just out of curiosity, is it more the southern states that are against it?
No, there's actually been some fight in Massachusetts, and there's been some fight in New Hampshire as well. So, for instance, they just had a Worcester story hour, and a few of my friends participated in it, and they read to the kids and whatnot. There was complete support from the parents and whatnot, but then they got fight back from a professor at a school, saying that this was actually, like, disgusting and, like, completely were tearing apart the people who were presenting. And it just basically went on about how, like, we're allowing these kids to see this and all this other types of stuff. And so now it's become, like, a huge, like, thing of Worcester protecting them, being like, look, this is, like, we know what we're doing. Like, this is wrong. And right now, I believe New Hampshire has one that they they're setting up for teenagers, and it's not going to be like a story time hour. It's going to be more of like an open Q&A where the drag queens are going to talk about, like, their life experiences, and they're going to be talking to these teenagers about, like, any questions that they have about growing up and confidence and whatnot. And the thing is like, now they've got some local political organizations that are actually going to rally there and try to take up as many seats as possible to protest it. And so now the people who are running that, they decided to protest the protesters by starting up their own event where they're inviting as many people who support it to come and take up as many seats as possible, so that when kids arrive, they can just get up and let a kid sit in the seat and then leave. So in that way, protesters wouldn't have as many seats. So if you feel like you're going to get tons of pushback and you're getting some negative feedback, and the place that you are working with to get these things to happen are fully supportive of what you're doing, you are going to find some more people who are supportive of it. You just need to reach out and, again, don't fight with the negativity, because no establishment wants to work with someone who's going to be using negativity as a fighting force. They want to use someone who's going to be using positivity to fight the force. So make sure that you partner with people who will encourage and just help stand with you on this, to show that you're not backing down.
Hell yeah. So with, like, the teenagers, like the queens reading or not, like, talking to teenagers, I just, like, still think that I would love, I can't think of, like, a specific queen, but, like, maybe Katja or maybe Shangela or maybe Bob reading Catcher in the Rye. So like teenagers, like I feel like that would be so much fun to see. I don't know, just like all like that like nasty, horrible angst and all that cussing. Like that would just be so much fun.
I feel like Katya would just go off script, and that Bob would
She would just drop the book and still be reading it. She's just like saying it out loud. Yeah.
No, she would be pretending to read it, and there'd just be another book inside it.
Yeah.
That would just be like a magazine. She would be like reading Cosmo with another, like the book on the outside of it. And then this doesn't sound like the Catcher in the Rye.
Catcher, we can see that. Like,
and then like I can see Bob doing it, but he would be like commenting on literally every page.
Yeah.
Like he would be like, let's cross that out and write this in instead.
Oh hell yeah. That's what I want to see. That's what I would
totally see that. Awesome.
Okay.
So Richard.
So Danny, this would be your topic then.
Okay. Sorry, did I get you? Did I get you?
This is why I have my volume turned down.
Good. Okay. So I do have a topic to bring up, and full disclosure, I have been what you would call an indoor kid my whole life. I've preferred arts and crafts and video games, and sobbing violently, but violently into my pillow. So no one will know. Okay. So anyways, I'm glad I got that out. I feel better now. Okay.
Would you say that your pillow was tolerantly wet?
Tolerably moist? Yes, she was. Okay, so that being said, like I'm not like I've been like a super like one of those indoor kids and just like really been like kind of hands on, but like not like full body hands on, just like very like digitally hands. It's like yeah, whatever. But I was wondering, have either of you really been into like team sports or anything? I'm asking you two first.
Okay.
One of the next part.
I'll start off. So in terms of sports, I did enjoy it. I love like just being out there and playing games, but one of the things that I couldn't really do was like watch sports. Like I just didn't have the attention span for it. I'd rather be playing it. And as active as I wanted to be, unfortunately, my grandmother growing up didn't allow me to play any sports, but it was something that I did always wanted to get into. And when I did, I felt like I was okay at it. And yeah, so I mean, I could have been an indoor or an outdoor kind of kid. I always wanted to be busy, but I feel like sports right now would probably be really cool. Like I like the whole team aspect of it, all the camaraderie, the competitiveness. Maybe I'm not so into, but I do like the whole team spirit. Yeah.
Okay. So I also just want to say before Richard, I hear from you that like my gears were turning a little bit because I was trying to come up with like a bisexual joke when you said that like you're like an indoor kid and an outdoor kid, but I just couldn't like think that fast enough. So I want you to know there was an attempt by me. Okay. So Richard, what about you? What's your experience with like sports, teams, sports?
I mean, I always grew up as being like that kid that was like forced into every single sport when I was younger, because like, oh, if you never try them, then you don't know if you like it. So like you have to try them all. So needless to say, like, no, I'm not too involved with sports. I never understood them. Like they just weren't like appealing to me. I just never understood the appeal to it. Like I was that nerdy kid that just like, I just want to be indoors. I don't want to be in the sunlight. I want to sit down with like my manga and with my anime and just like I did puzzles all day. Like as a kid, like I was obsessed with puzzles. Like I did those like 3D like puzzles that like yeah. Those like 150,000 piece like 3D puzzles that were like full landscapes.
Like,
that could have been a sport.
Like I was doing that by 5.
Full contact. Like, give me that piece.
No, so I was doing those by like the age of 5 because I was so into puzzles. Those are like literally I got a puzzle like every single month. Like, it was awful.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Okay, so I'm glad we started off with that. Yeah, I think personally, I just have like I said, I'm an indoor kid. I never really like played sports, but my one experience with team sports was actually that I was actually like phenomenal at was volleyball. And I think you guys know why. It's because I'm like 6'8". And so I just like with like no effort, I just be like spike. Like it was so easy. And like I was actually like baller at like this sport. And yeah, but it never went anywhere, obviously, because then like once it was over, I just went home and like played Smash Brothers. So it all just ended pretty quickly. But what I wanted to
I just wanted to add what Jess said in the chat. She said, I used to be really into basketball when I was a lot younger. I was on teams in middle school and such. Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's actually super cool. I did not know that about Jess. I will challenge her the next time I see her, and I will make her watch me lose. Look, make eye contact with me. This will be sad.
And then it would just be one-on-one volleyball, and you just stand straight at the net, just
like not tonight, not tonight, kiddo. Okay, so I bring like this team sport thing up because I did have a conversation with not a coworker, but like a community partner in the last couple of weeks about the sport of dodgeball. And I mean, like we've all grown up, like dodgeball has been like a super like foundational part of our upbringing in public schools, I feel, and even in private schools. I suppose like this is just a game because I mean, it can accommodate huge groups, like huge numbers of kids. The costs are super low. They're just like those mad cheap, like super soft red balls. Even though I don't guess they're not super soft when they're traveling at like 180 miles like towards your face. Yeah, so I mean, like this has just been like a game that like everyone plays and it's like super popular. But during this conversation, it came up that perhaps dodgeball might not be an appropriate sport for in terms of like appropriate like modeling for younger people. So we think about like some team sports like basketball, soccer, and football where there's like some really solid camaraderie that gets built. There's like this interplay where people learn how to like work with each other and, you know, score them points. But in dodgeball, even though you're on teams, you're really only like looking out for yourself. It's really just like 1 against like 100, even though like there's another 99 that are on your side that are standing like with you. So like there's like that where kind of like negates like the purpose of like a team sport, but then also just like the extreme like aggression that is necessary for playing this sport, just like humming these like large red balls at like your friends and family's domes and just like the tears and like the black eyes and just is that like appropriate? I mean, like we worry about like sports injuries and concussions in like, you know, high school and college like team sports, but I mean no one's talking about the real terror like no elementary school dodgeball.
Just roll them all in bubble wrap. That's what I say.
Please do
roll them all in bubble wrap and release them.
Bye, you're done, you graduate. Like that was a tough semester. So
they're all just waddling out the door. Snap.
I'll invest in that. So no, I was wondering about what you guys thought. Like, do you? I mean, this is like such a like strange specific question, but I mean, how do you feel about dodgeball as like the prescribed team sport that everyone is asked to engage in at a young age? Like now that I've like blown your mind with like my pseudoscientific facts and opinions, how do you feel?
Well, what I will say about dodgeball, what I can remember about it, I just remember being sweaty from beginning to end. And I wasn't really doing much. I was just so nervous. Like, you know, you're just nervous, you just sweat in place. And like, yeah, like it's just like high stress from beginning to end. Like you're just like, you don't want to get hit, but you also kind of want it to end at the same time.
You want to be out.
Yeah, that's how I just felt about dodgeball, because if you win, what do you win? You get, there's so many people against you if you never get hit. So it's interesting that I don't know how it is a team sport, but I do know that or at least a little bit, that there has been these like dodgeball leagues that have been turning up almost like in the adult world. So like, you know, like softball leagues and roller derby and all that. But there's like, yeah, there's like dodgeball leagues, which that actually seems pretty cool. But yeah, people get injured, you know, like they have to go in there with like full on gear, because if you thought dodgeball hurt when you were a kid, now there's adults swinging balls at adults, and yeah, you know, that has to hurt. Yeah, so I think, like, is it an appropriate sport? I think it's just like, it's just one of those things that it's like, if they want to participate, then they should, right? You shouldn't force someone that doesn't want to get hurt.
If that was like, if that option were given to me, like, I would have done zero.
I was always that kid that would, like, when they did dodgeball, they split us into 2 teams, and there was always the aggressive kid on the other side of the team who was full on overhand whipping the balls, so they would whistle when yes, and they were like, you could hear them blasting on the other side. I remember we had this one girl that was in like all of our gym classes, and they nicknamed her Cannon Arm because she would she was like the meanest person, because she was so angry with everyone, so she would just full on take out her aggression just like on everyone on the other team. And then there was always me left as the last person on the other team because I was just good at dodging.
I'm glad someone in this conversation was good at dodging.
That's because I didn't even bother going for the balls. Everyone always got out because they always went running for the balls, and there was me who was just like, I'm just going to ignore every ball altogether and just try not to get hit.
That is smart.
And then it took no. I realized that wasn't smart, because if I didn't want to participate, I would have just gotten hit earlier by someone who wasn't aggressive, and then I could have sat out during it.
Oh man. No, I think about that. No, like I totally forgot about that. It's just like, you know, the like the kind of like rest and calm that like comes over you when you're just like, oh, good, I get to sit down now. Like, that's great. But then, like, I still, like, kind of remember, I'm, like, having, like, all these, like, kind of weird, like, my memories being jogged about, you know, like, something going on, and then, like, we're all sitting, like, there because, like, our team's losing, and then something happens, and they're just like, all right, you're all back in the game now, and just being like, shit. Like, I have to go back now. Like, but...
See, with us, ours wasn't sitting down. Ours was you had to go to the other team's side, and you had to stand behind them.
So you got like, so you got hit if like people died?
Yes!
That's messed up.
So if someone was whipping the balls, they didn't hit anyone, they were soaring towards us, standing in the back, and we were all just like, let's just get out of the way.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Oh, it was because like the way that my school like played it was, if you stood on the other side, if you caught someone else's ball on the other side when it came through, you were back in the game.
Oh, that's interesting.
I didn't even know that could happen.
Yeah. So no one ever wanted to catch the balls to get back in the game. They all just wanted to dodge them because they did not want anything to do with it.
So yeah, I also just want to point out that even though we're kind of like taking like some like sucker punches at dodgeball right now, I do just want to point out that like in my experience, like dodgeball was fun. Like actually being in that game and like that adrenaline, like obviously like you're like the chemicals and stuff that are coursing through your body, like you do experience like a type of pleasure and like endorphin release when like you're playing the game. So like any exercise is good exercise, although like I do believe dodgeball may not be like the safest or healthiest form of exercise. But also I do want to like say like that godlike status that you reach when you've actually like hit someone or like you caught the ball when it was coming at you, like you're like you have to take a moment and do like one of those wrestler poses. You're like, yes. And then all of a sudden crack, like you just get hit. So, I mean, whatever, double-edged sword. But no, I was actually thinking about this while we're talking about this, because this is something that comes up like super infrequently when I'm talking with like other people. And I know this game went by a bunch of different names, but I only played this in elementary school and it was awful. And I don't know how people got away with playing this game, but it was called Suicide. And it was like, I don't know if anyone remembers, but it was played with tennis balls up against a brick wall. This was at like West Memorial, like the West School in Peabody. And you would either be like standing in between the throwers and the wall, and like you had to like dodge the incoming like tennis balls that people were like humming at you. Or if you wanted to, you could be safe and like touch the wall, and there was some reason why you would touch the wall if you got hit by a ball, and as long as you were touching the wall, you would be safe. But if you stood there, you couldn't move from the wall, so you could get targeted by the tennis balls. Now that I'm saying it out loud, this all sounds like just a means of like attacking people you don't like physically when calling it a game. So I think I just blew this whole cover. So this wasn't a game. This was just really aggressive people having an unhealthy outlet at the age of like 8.
I'm so mine. Well, when I've ever played Suicide was like as a warm up. I didn't know that was an actual game. That sounds like a horrible game.
Oh yeah, I know. Let's unpack this. Let's like try to see what's that like lying at the core of this. No, this was just like a game that we played before school started at like my elementary school, and it was just like everyone did it. Like there were very, very few people who were not playing this game, and so I mean, like me being like the indoor kid, I was just like, well, I can't sit by myself because I'm just going to get made fun of. So I might as well just be a kid that gets hit by tennis balls.
Whatever happened to the old school just parachute and you all sit on the edges and just...
Oh, man, that was great. That was great. I wish we could bring that back. We'll do that at nAGLY. Yeah. We'll do that at like on like a drop-in hours at nAGLY. Is this great? Oh, okay. Let me write this down because I'm going to tell Steve to buy a giant parachute.
The rainbow ones, right?
Hell yeah. What other kinds are there?
Yes. I love this. This is so much like nostalgia. So Jess said that she used to play Suicide all the time with her friends in the neighborhood, and it was super fun. Well, I'm glad you found it fun because Danny just made it sound so scary.
I have nothing to say because I don't know. Like I just was the odd man out. Like they were like, yeah, it's a game, Danny. Go stand at the wall.
Now we know not to let Jess near the parachute.
And Tech Valor says, cover is blown. Illuminati would be like, we'd like to know your location. Oh, and Jess says, I think it's different playing games like this with friends versus with people you don't know very well.
But I also feel like some of like these team sports are like a really good way to meet people. I'm okay in theory because obviously I don't do these. But like to like meet new people. But also I feel that like engaging in team sports, like when you make like those resolutions to like be fit, be healthy, you tend to like get a gym membership, and those gym memberships, even though like there are a lot of places that promote their, I guess, tolerance or like intolerance of like meatheads, that you still, I think a lot of people find that the gym is still kind of like an uncomfortable place to be for a lot of reasons. So they end up like not really maintaining their membership or going back. But like with team sports, like if there truly is like team building and like that camaraderie that should happen in team sports, then you're definitely more likely to go back and see those people again and like play with them and like try to win. And like that's like a good form of like competition. So it's like you're competing against another team in like a healthy way and not against like your peers or whatever. So I think I do believe that there is something about team sports that are actually generally really, really good for people. I'm one of those people that refuses to take that advice.
You're like, just not me. Totally makes sense.
So I'm done talking. I'm tired. I know that's not the prescribed way to say it, Mia, but you know what?
No, it's fine.
I'm in charge now. Yeah. I'm the captain now.
Yeah.
Oh no, we have a rogue Danny on our hands.
No, this is great. This is a fun night. I love all the topics that we got to talk about. So yeah, I think this is a great place for us to end for the night. And I just want to remind everyone, if you can just like this page and subscribe to our channel. If you haven't, our next nAGLY Live will be, I don't know when actually, because we have events going on. So we're probably going to take a hiatus for a while. But yeah, the more to come about that. So I guess we'll end the night.
We'll see you when we feel like it.
Yeah, we'll end the night by saying our shout out. So we'll start with Danny.
The shout outs are I'm sorry. I know we practiced this earlier, but the shout outs are the thing that I'm supposed to say, right?
Yeah, the goodbye shout outs.
Okay. Okay. So this is nAGLY.
And remember,
You are loved.
Sorry, I messed that up.